Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If? One passionate night that changed everything. Naruto and Sasuke are love or friendship. Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. It was really funny how one night could change your entire life. Monday morning, everything was normal. Sasuke had a loving family, a great job, and an amazing best friend. Everything had been going perfectly. Well, except his love life, but you can't have everything. Monday evening, he had gone to Naruto's 25th birthday party. Really, it had all started out very innocent. They had gone out to the blonde's favorite nightclub. Great drinks, music, friends, and there were lots of gorgeous singles in the place looking for an easy hookup. That's when things got out control. Come on bastard, dance with me. The girls will love it. Naruto said. Sasuke raised an eyebrow at his best friend. Every once in a while, he would try something like this. Sexuality was now going mainstream. There were certainly men who found the idea of two women being together erotic. Apparently, the reverse was also true. The blue-eyed lawyer was only too happy to indulge women that fell into this camp. You're really going to try this, aren't you? Just how much have you had to drink? Sasuke asked in amusement. Let's see. 3 shots of vodka, some fruity drink that I can't pronounce, and a couple beers. Naruto informed him. Sasuke blinked. Naruto had a legendary liver. He knew that there were people who had a high tolerance for alcohol, but the blonde took it to a completely different level. How was he still sober enough to remember all that? You're completely intoxicated. Though I suppose since you can remember all that, you might be sober enough not to step on my toes or vomit all over me. Alright, fine. One dance. Sasuke muttered as he took Naruto's hand and led him off to the dance floor. That's the spirit, Naruto said cheerfully as Sasuke shook his head and wrapped his arms around the handsome blonde's neck. Naruto was bisexual. Sasuke was gay. They had both known that since they were in middle school. It had never been an issue in their friendship. Occasionally, the blonde would ask Sasuke to do something like this to attract women or sometimes other men. It disturbed Sasuke to admit this, but it always achieved the desired result. You are such a loser, but I suppose it is your birthday. So I have to be nice to you. Sasuke said with a smirk. Ah, you are such a sweet talker. Naruto said, and as punishment, he grabs Sasuke's ass and grinds rather suggestively against his friend. Somehow one dance turned into 2, which turned into 4. Naruto got Sasuke a few drinks between all the dancing and by the end of the night, both of them were rather drunk to put it mildly. Naruto called them a cab and they ended up at Naruto's place. Sasuke stumbled once they got into the door. He had a fairly high alcoholic tolerance, but nowhere near Naruto's. Luckily, the blonde caught him. Is that your way of saying you are falling for me? Naruto taunted him. You wish, Sasuke replied with a smirk. It wasn't as if they hadn't had similar conversations at least 100 times before. Still, Sasuke saw something in Naruto's azure orbs that he had never seen before. Desire. You're right, I do. Fuck, you're beautiful, he said, and before Sasuke could reply to that, he had captured his best friend's lips in a heated kiss. It didn't take long after that for the clothes to come off. The rest of the night had passed in a blur of complete ecstasy. Sasuke had always enjoyed, but it had never been like that before. It had never been an all-consuming passion. A blur of tangled limbs. Heated kisses. Desperate moans and the sounds of sun-kissed skin against ivory pale skin were forever etched in his mind. God help him, he had never seen anything more erotic than when Naruto came. Yes, Monday night had been incredible. Now it was Tuesday morning though. Sasuke was so fucked and not in a good way this time. I guess I should at least leave a note. I have to be at work in an hour and I can't wait for him to wake up. Besides, it will give me some time to think about what I want to say. He mutters. He didn't have any idea what he was going to say to the blonde that was currently still slumbering in his bed. It was as if he didn't have a care in the world. Naruto was the picture of contentment at the moment. Sasuke quickly finds a piece of paper and a pen. He pauses as he considers what to write. He decides to stick with something simple. Naruto, I woke up before you. I had to leave for work. You were still asleep. I didn't want to wake you up. I'll see you later. Sasuke. It would have to do for now. He quickly showered and changed into fresh clothes. The youngest Uchiha then darted off to work before Naruto could wake up. A short while later, Naruto wakes up. He stretches and yawns, enjoying how wonderfully satisfied his body felt. That's when his sleepy mind started to question why he was feeling so satisfied and opened his eyes. Immediately, it all came rushing back to him. Quote, Naruto begins to panic and immediately looks around for Sasuke. He wasn't sure what he was going to say. The blonde just knew that he had to say something to him. Finally, he notices the note and reads. He went to work. The blue-eyed lawyer notes with a frown. Well, at least Sasuke had been considerate enough to leave him a note. Now he knew that his best friend hadn't just run off to avoid facing the morning after. Still, Naruto didn't know what he was going to do about this. His alarm clock decided to help him though, by buzzing. Shit. I have to get ready for work. He growls as he quickly rushes to the shower. Naruto knew that he couldn't show up to work with the scent of still clinging to his body. So a shower was mandatory. He blinks as he looks down at himself. Sasuke definitely was a possessive bastard. He had love bites all over him. Thank God his suit had a high collar. He finishes washing off and dresses in a hurry. The blonde was out the door not even 5 minutes later. If he was fast, he might avoid the worst of the inevitable morning traffic. Oh man, what am I even going to say to him? Naruto asks about 15 minutes later, when he arrives the Sharingan law firm. Sasuke's family had been practicing law for as long as any of them could remember. They owned one of the largest and most prestigious law firms in the country. Hell, it was one of the largest and most prestigious law firms in the world actually. When Sasuke had realized that Naruto had also decided to go to law school, he promised that he'd talk to his parents about getting him a position there. Obviously, he had kept his word because now they were colleagues. What are you going to say to who? Naruto hears a familiar raspy voice ask. Oh hey, Gaara, he says excitedly and rushes over to his friend. Gaara worked at Suna. Suna was another law firm. Sometimes Sharingan and Suna lawyers would work together on cases. He was also the head of that firm. It was damn impressive really. The redhead wasn't even 30 and already owned his own law firm. Surely, he was well on the path to world domination. Good morning, Naruto. I'm surprised that you came in today. I was at your party last night. I see to recall you drinking enough to put even Tsunade under the table. But tell me what is troubling you. You look rather worried about something. He says. It's a long story. Naruto sighs. The Uchiha looked a bit twitchy this morning too. Did you two have a fight? Gaara asks with a raised eyebrow. Not exactly. It was kinda the opposite really. Naruto says as he drags the defense lawyer into his office. It was at this point that Gaara's interest was certainly piqued. He wondered what could be so scandalous that Naruto wouldn't talk about it in the parking lot. He gestures for his friend to continue. What happened? He demands. Well, Sasuke was at my party. We both had a lot to drink. I asked him to dance. You know that sometimes we dance together. The environmental lawyer says. Gaara nods. Yes, he was familiar with Naruto's antics. So was Sasuke. He still wasn't certain what this had to do with a twitchy Sasuke and a nervous Naruto though. Yes, I'm aware of that. Then what happened? He presses him. Well, we went home. One thing led to another. We ended up sleeping together. When I woke up in the morning, I saw he left me a note saying he had gone to work. So I don't know where we stand. The blonde admits in a rush. Well, Gaara should have seen that one coming. It was obvious that Sasuke and Naruto were too close for it to be platonic. Really, he was positive the only reason why it hadn't happened sooner was that they had grown up together. They might as well have been brothers. That was how long they had known each other. So you don't know if he regrets it or not. How do you feel about it? It would be a good idea to decide that before you try to speak to him. The other lawyer suggests. Yeah, I have no idea how he feels about what happened and I don't know. I mean, that was amazing, but he's Sasuke. You know, he's the guy that I've been friends with since I was a baby. I don't know if I want to risk our friendship by going shooting for more. Naruto says as he tugs at his hair in frustration. The defense attorney shook his head. It really wasn't like Naruto to be skittish. Then again, this was a friendship that had lasted over 2 decades. The blonde had a reason to be. Let's play pretend. Assume for a moment that Sasuke indicated that he would be interested in further exploring a romantic relationship with you. What would your response be? The other man inquires. Naruto blinks as he ponders that. Honestly, he hadn't thought about that possibility. He was worried that Sasuke might deck him for taking advantage of him while he was intoxicated or would want to pretend it didn't happen. He didn't know which would be worse. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it was incredible, but it's a really big risk. Naruto trails off. Yes, Naruto. I do believe that we have established that physically the two of you are compatible. That doesn't answer my question though. Gaara insists. An image flashed across Naruto's mind. He had pushed Sasuke against the wall. His creamy ivory skin looked even more beautiful when illuminated by the moonlight streaking through the window of his room. His eyes were ruby red with desire and his normally perfect raven black hair was a complete mess, but for some reason Naruto just found that even more hot than usual. I mean, if he was willing to try, I would want to. I never thought about him that way. Well, at least not consciously. I always just filed him under the category of brother. Sasuke never seemed into me like that. He always treated me like he would Itachi. The blue-eyed lawyer answers. Alright, then that's what you should tell him. His friend counsels him. Naruto frowns. Well, that all sounded nice in theory, but that was assuming a lot. There was no way to tell if Sasuke felt the same way. What if Naruto told Sasuke that he wanted to be with him and the other man friend-zoned him? Would he be able to deal with that? I don't know. He mutters. Naruto, I've known you for years. You've never been afraid of anything. There's no reason to be afraid of Sasuke. Besides, you might want to make a move fast. Men like Sasuke don't stay single for long. The redhead warns him. The blonde frowns. That was true. Honestly, he wasn't really sure why Sasuke was single at the moment. He had broken up with Neji about 6 months ago. It hadn't even been a bad breakup. So he was at a loss for why his friend was being so cautious about re-entering the dating scene. Naruto would be lying if he said that he hadn't been shocked by them calling it quits. Sasuke and Neji had been dating for a year. On paper, they were perfect together. Both were intelligent and ambitious, young professionals. They had similar hobbies and temperaments. He'd never seen two people who were more compatible, but it had ended just like that. Yeah, I know. I just don't really know how to approach him about all this. He says with a sigh. The direct approach would likely be best. It is Sasuke, after all. Gaara reminds him. The environmental lawyer nods. Yeah, that was true. Sasuke had never really been one to beat around the bush in any other aspect of his life. Why would his love life be any different? Good point. I'm going to go see if he wants to grab lunch later. Naruto says and the redhead nods approvingly. A few hours later, Naruto knocks on the door of Sasuke's office. The raven-haired lawyer soon answers. He pauses when he sees it was Naruto. Naruto, about last night, he says. Yeah, do you want to grab lunch with me and go somewhere that we can talk about it? Naruto asks. Sasuke wasn't sure that was a good idea. The youngest Uchiha had no idea what he was going to say to Naruto about everything. Still, they had been friends since they were babies. He at the very least owed him the chance to talk about what was going on between them. If anything. Yeah, let me guess, the ramen shop. He taunts him. Naruto could eat his weight in ramen. Honestly, Sasuke had no idea where he put it all. The man practically inhaled the cheap noodles. Sasuke failed to see the fascination, but whatever. Nah. I know that you have been wanting to check out Samahata. Let's go there. He offers. Samahata was a seafood restaurant that was owned by Kisame and Suigetsu. Suigetsu was one of Sasuke's friends. So Naruto had called about an hour ago and asked if he could have a table. The blonde had said he wanted to surprise Sasuke and Suigetsu had given him the reservation. That was a damn good thing. Usually it took weeks to get into Samahata. Say what you will about Kisame and Suigetsu, they sure knew their seafood. The place was really popular and a bit on the pricey side, but almost everyone thought it was worth it. That sounds great, but I thought you wanted to have lunch today. They are usually booked pretty rock solid. You need reservations to get in. Sasuke reminds him. Not when you or us. I called Suigetsu. I asked for the favor and have got us the reservations. Naruto says cheerfully. Sasuke shakes his head in amusement. Leave it to Naruto to find a way to bend the rules. Oh well, he wasn't really in the mood to nibble at ramen. At least they could have real food while they straightened everything out. Let's go then. I wouldn't want to make you seem like an ass. If we don't show up, after you called in that favor, it would be a dick move. The raven-haired lawyer observes. Yeah, it really would. I hear their lobster is really good too. The blonde exclaims brightly as they head off. Sasuke drove them to the fancy seafood place. A waiter shows them to a private booth. He didn't know whether to be relieved or anxious about the fact that they had some privacy from other couples and diners. Thanks. Naruto tells the waiter, who nods and hands them each a menu. I'll be back in a few minutes to take your orders. I hope you enjoy your stay. He says before politely excusing himself. Sasuke and Naruto sit down at their table, across from either other. Neither seem to know what they should say or do. Finally, Naruto decides to break the ice. About what happened last night, I hope that you don't think that I planned it. I didn't intentionally get you drunk to take advantage of you. I would never do something like that on purpose. The blonde says. Loser, you couldn't take advantage of me. Don't flatter yourself like that. It was all consensual. It just happened. Sasuke assures him in typical Sasuke style. It wouldn't be Sasuke if he didn't insult you at least once a sentence. Naruto had grown used to it. There was no malice in the names he called the blonde. Hell, Naruto called Sasuke a bastard. It was only fair that the youngest Uchiha could get away with something like loser. Yeah, well that's good. So you don't hate me then? He asks nervously. If I hated you, I would never have agreed to have lunch with you. I could never hate you. You're my best friend. I just don't really know what to say to you right now. I never planned on it happening either. He admits. Oh, this was bad. If Sasuke didn't know what to say, this was very bad. One thing that Naruto had always liked about having Sasuke around was that he was always so sure of himself. He had a solution to everything. Well, he had a solution to everything, except this. Yeah, so how do you feel about it? He asks awkwardly. I don't know. I was going to ask you the same question. Did you want to pretend it never happened or were you interested in finding out if it should be more? Sasuke dares himself to ask. Honestly, I don't know. You've always been there for me. I don't really know if I want to risk a friendship of over 20 years based on one night of. Really fucking amazing Southeast, by the way. I didn't know you were that flexible. The blonde says. Sasuke felt himself smirk. Well, it was good to know that at the very least, Naruto didn't have an issue with his performance. Still, he raised a good point. Was it really worth that big a risk? Thanks, and it's good that after all these years, we finally found a good use for that big mouth of yours. Maybe you're right though. Maybe we should just pawn it off to a one-time thing. It happened and it was great, but we can blame it on the alcohol. Sasuke suggests. Naruto frowns. He was glad that Sasuke wasn't mad at him. He couldn't really be upset that Sasuke was agreeing with him, but that didn't change the fact that he didn't exactly like the answer. What if I don't want to blame it on the alcohol? What if I want more than just one night? He asks. You said it yourself. It's not a good idea. If it doesn't work out, I think we both know that we aren't the type of people who can be just friends with our exes. I tried that with Neji. It didn't end well. Sasuke reminds him. Naruto's eyes narrow. He knew that it was stupid, but he couldn't help it. He felt jealous. He didn't like Sasuke talking about his ex. Don't bring him into it. I'm not him. I'm nothing like Neji. This is about us, not our previous relationships. The blonde practically growls. Sasuke was a bit taken aback by Naruto's response. He was definitely acting like a jealous lover. The other lawyer had been through everything with Sasuke, including his breakup with Neji. He knew that there was nothing going on there. There was no reason to be jealous. The reverse was also true. He had been there through Naruto's relationship with Sakura. That breakup had been brutal. You're right. He has nothing to do with this, but you get my point. If we tried this and it didn't work out, do you really think that we could go back to the way things were? Sasuke asks. Naruto hated to admit it, but he knew the answer to that. No. The answer was no. Either they were going to pretend it never happened or they were going to do this. There was really no in between. Probably not. We aren't wired that way. It's why we are lawyers. We don't settle. Naruto replies. Exactly. Sasuke says, and he orders some shrimp when the waiter comes back. I'll have some lobster and get us some white wine. Naruto tells the server with a smile. The server nods and heads off. Naruto frowns. He wasn't really sure how to proceed. The fact that he had gotten so jealous of Sasuke's ex was disturbing. This had already progressed beyond the boundaries of what was considered a platonic friendship. I want more than one night. I know that deep down you want that too. The environmental lawyer says. Sasuke raises an eyebrow. Naruto was pretty cocky there. Then again, he had good reason to be. The raven-haired man tries to lower his gaze, when images of the night before flashed across his mind. It had been explosive to say the least. What makes you say that? Sasuke replies. You left hickeys all over me. You're way too possessive for someone who is going to be content with a one-night stand. That's how I know. Naruto says. He found himself biting his lower lip. That was true. Naruto had him there. Still, he wasn't sure if this was a good idea or not. Sasuke found himself very grateful when the food finally arrived. It gave him a good excuse not to speak. He shoveled some of his shrimp in his mouth. Sasuke, you're being evasive. In the courtroom, you would tear into anyone who tried that tactic. Naruto says. That was true. Whenever Sasuke had them on the run, he would go in for the kill. He was a prosecutor. It was his job to lock up the bad guys, and he was damn good at it. Maybe a little. I think I just need some time to think about it. Sasuke confesses. That's okay. I mean, I know that it was really sudden, but maybe this is why none of our other relationships ever worked out. His friend says. Sasuke pauses as he considers that. Maybe the one had been hiding right underneath his nose the whole time. I guess we'll see, he says as they were finishing dinner. Yeah, just promise me that you'll at least think about it, he says, and Sasuke nods. How was he supposed to say no to that look? Naruto's big blue puppy eyes were lethal. That prick knew it too. I'll think about it. We should probably head back. Our lunch break is almost over. Sasuke says. Yeah, you're right. Let me give you something to think about though. Naruto says, and he caresses Sasuke's cheek as he kisses him. Sasuke kisses back instinctively. He bit back a moan. It was a close call though. God, that felt good. Fireworks was an understatement. It felt like his entire body was on fire, but in a very, very good way. He heard the waiter gasp, who had just come back to get the check. Quickly, he breaks the kiss and hands him the payment. He couldn't believe that he had just got caught making out in public. I'm so sorry, he stammers before darting off with the money. Well, I guess I at least gave him something to talk about with the other staff members. Naruto muses. Naruto, you are such a loser. Sasuke says as he resists the urge to kiss him again. And you are such a bastard, but you're my bastard. Naruto says with a grin. Sasuke raises an eyebrow. Normally, he wouldn't have thought much of a comment like that. Now that they were lovers though, things were different. The youngest Uchiha never would have thought of Naruto as a very possessive person, but apparently he was. He had gotten angry at Neji being mentioned and now he was stressing the word mai. It should have pissed him off. But for some reason, he found it kinda hot and that disturbed him. I said that I'd think about it. I didn't say that I was yours. Sasuke says as they head back to the office. Yes, one night had changed his entire life. Monday morning, everything had been normal. Now on Tuesday afternoon, his best friend of over 20 years was trying to seduce him. Sasuke sighs as he gets into the car. He was definitely going to have to talk to Itachi about this. He was in way over his head and his big brother was a genius. Maybe he would know what to do. Sasuke knew that it was a risk, but he had no other choice. His hands shake slightly as he pulls out his cell phone and calls Itachi. Itachi was likely never going to let him live this down, but he always gave sound advice. That's what he needed at the moment. Itachi. Sasuke says into the phone. Sasuke, it's good to hear from you. Though I'm a bit surprised you called while on your lunch break. That can only mean one thing, you did something foolish. The elder Uchiha greets him. The young lawyer sighs. He wanted to deny that, but this time it was accurate. He had done something very foolish. He slept with his best friend. You know I resent that implication. I don't only call you when something bad happens. Sasuke protests. That's true, but you only call during my lunch break during emergencies. So what did you do this time? Please don't tell me that you found a camera hidden in your shower again. The personal injury lawyer says. That's right. Itachi specialized representing clients who had been injured through no fault of their own. His particular specialization got a bad rap sometimes, but Sasuke knew better than to judge Itachi based on his job title. He was damn good at getting people the money they deserved. Insurance companies definitely like to rip off their customers. That was only one time and she moved out of the country anyway. No, that's not what I wanted to talk to you about. You're right though. I fucked up. I fucked up good. Sasuke admits. Your admirers certainly can be a little overenthusiastic at times. Quite honestly, I think a restraining order or two might be in order. Now tell me what's troubling you. The elder Uchiha replies. Sasuke braces himself. Itachi was never going to let him live this down. Still this his best chance at salvaging his friendship with Naruto or maybe taking it to the next level. His older brother was practically a sage when it came to this type of thing. He would know what to do. Itachi always did. I've considered asking for restraining orders, but that's not what I wanted to talk to you about. I'm not really sure if this is the sort of thing that can be discussed over the phone. Think you can swing by my place tonight? I can order us some pizza or something. Sasuke offers. Foolish little brother, of course I can stop by. Though I refuse to dine on fast food. I'll bring something with me. Honestly, what would mother say if she knew you were reduced to eating that junk food? Itachi chides him. Sasuke shrugs. It wasn't like he ate it every night. It was just easier than cooking some nights after a long day in the courtroom or at his office. That was all. Alright, you can bring some food. You aren't actually going to tattle on me though, are you? Sasuke demands. No, I'm not going to inform mother of your poor dietary habits. You simply have to remedy them. I will be there at 8. I have to get back to work though. I'll see you then, Itachi says as he hangs up on Sasuke. Later that night, Itachi shows up at Sasuke's place. The elder Uchiha brother raises an eyebrow at the young lawyer's solemn expression. He looked like a man that was walking to the gallows. That expression is rather dramatic. I'm certain this will be highly entertaining. I brought a nice steak dinner though. He informs him. That does look pretty good. Just set it on the table. I guess I might as well just get this over with. You know how I went to Naruto's birthday party? Sasuke asks. Itachi merely nods. That was a given. Sasuke and Naruto had been friends for years. What was so scandalous about him attending the blonde's party? It would have been more shocking, if he hadn't. Yes, I'm aware. What of it? The smoky-eyed Uchiha asks. Well, we had a lot of drinks. I called us a cab. When we got back, one thing led to another and we slept together. Sasuke admits in a rush. The other lawyer blinks. Whatever he had been expecting, that hadn't been it. Oh, he knew that there was something lurking underneath the surface between the two of them. Something a lot stronger than friendship, but he didn't actually expect them to act on it. I must admit, you have surprised me. I didn't think you were going to say that. Was it a mutually enjoyable experience? He asks. Itachi, that is not the point. Sasuke snaps at him. What? I'm merely curious. Besides, it is part of the point. Do you wish to just remain friends or did your encounter make you want more than that? Itachi inquires. Sasuke pauses. He knew that his answer was very important here. Both to his relationship with Naruto and determining how badly Itachi would tease him about this for the rest of his life. I'm not going to lie. It was extremely mutually enjoyable, as you say. Still, that's a big risk to take. We've been friends so long and I don't know if I want to risk jeopardizing that because he's a talented lover. The younger Uchiha replies warily. Just out of curiosity, who topped? Not that it makes a difference. I don't want graphic details, but you know there is a betting pool going around. The other lawyer informs him. Sasuke blinks. A betting pool. People were betting that he and Naruto were going to have an on who would top. Of all the sick, twisted garbage that he had heard in his life, that took the cake. It's a good thing you are a personal injury lawyer. They are going to need your expertise, when I get done with them. I want names. The raven-haired man demands. Itachi chuckles. Sasuke had always been a rather feisty individual. It was what made him such a good lawyer. Well, that in his keen mind, of course. I refuse to tell you their names. I would rather not have to bail you out of jail. Are you going to answer the question? His brother inquires. Sasuke shakes his head. Fuck no. Either way, he'd never live it down. If he told Itachi that he topped, he'd tease Naruto. If he told his brother that Naruto topped, Itachi would tease him. It just wasn't going to happen. You didn't answer my question, so I'm not going to answer yours. Anyway, what do you think I should do? The prosecutor asks. Well, you won't come out and say it directly, but the implication is rather clear. You'd be agreeable to the idea of it lasting more than one night. You are just scared that if it doesn't work out, you'll lose your best friend. It's a valid fear, but you have to decide which is stronger. Desire or fear? Itachi answers him. The raven-haired man frowns at that answer. They were both really strong. Sasuke believed in being honest with himself. His body definitely wouldn't say no to another go. His mind knew that it was best to proceed with caution though. We are best friends and we work together. If it didn't work out, that would be really awkward to have to work in the same building. Sasuke points out. Indeed it would. As Sharingan is a family practice, I imagine that he would be the one to leave in that case. Don't let your concern over your professional lives ruin your personal ones though. Naruto could easily find another job, in the worst case scenario. His brother reassures him. Sasuke nods. That was true. Naruto was a rising star in the legal community. The man got a new job offer at least every couple of months. Some of them were very attractive to put it mildly. You're right about that. Naruto always lands on his feet. Sasuke concedes. Have you talked to Naruto yet about this? Itachi inquires. Sasuke sighs. Yes, he had. The blonde was a bit cautious, but apparently feeling more daring about the whole thing than he was at the moment. He wasn't exactly sure how to explain that to Itachi, but he had to try. Yes, we had lunch a little before I called you. The younger man confesses. And how did that go? Did you discuss what happened between the two of you or did you both evade the issue at hand? The smoky-eyed Uchiha asks. The prosecutor takes a deep breath and braces himself. He knew that Itachi wouldn't let him get away without answering that question. So he summoned up all his courage and did so. We discussed it. Long story short, I think he wants to give it a shot. He's cautiously optimistic. Sasuke replies. He's cautiously optimistic. Cautious isn't a word that I associate with Naruto. Alright then. How would you describe your view of everything? If he's cautiously optimistic, what are you? The older lawyer questions him. Realistic. Sasuke offers. Itachi shakes his head. What on earth was he going to do with his foolish little brother? It was a damn good thing that Sasuke had him, or he'd be completely hopeless. Well, let him know that you have no issue with exploring a more romantic relationship with him, provided that you take things slow and certain ground rules are set beforehand. The other lawyer suggests. Sasuke mulls that over. He nods after a few minutes. Maybe Itachi was right. He and Naruto were both lawyers. They understood the importance of being thorough and stating your case. It might work. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Thanks, Itachi. He says. Of course, what are big brothers for? Since you didn't answer my earlier question though, I shall just assume that Naruto was the more aggressive lover. Itachi taunts him and Sasuke growls. Itachi. The younger Uchiha hisses at him. Oh come now. Surely, you can't begrudge me having a little fun. His brother says, and Sasuke sighs. He knew that he would never be able to tell Itachi everything, without being teased. It was just the price he paid for advice. Still, it was good to know that his brother had his back, even if Itachi could be annoying about it sometimes. Right. So I'll just talk to him about it tomorrow then. Sasuke says, and Itachi nods approvingly. The next day, Naruto heads to work. He was pathetic, he mentally decides. He was looking for every excuse he could walk past Sasuke's office. Sasuke always left his office door open, when he wasn't in a meeting. It was his way of advertising that he was available to help you, if you needed it. Right now, the blonde swore that someone up there was taunting him. Sasuke was doing some paperwork. His bastard had a habit of sipping on a drink while he waged a war against the dreaded paperwork monster of doom. Normally, this wasn't a problem for Naruto. Now that he knew what Sasuke could do with his mouth though, it definitely was. There was something very Freudian about the way that Sasuke would chew on his straw while he sucked on it and continued his valiant effort to slay the paperwork. Naruto, just go talk to him. Gaara says, and Naruto jumps about 3 feet into the air. Shit. Don't sneak up on me like that. The blonde yells. Sasuke raises an eyebrow when he hears the commotion and gets up. He saunters over to them and shakes his head. He didn't even need to say it. He wanted to know what the big deal was. Sorry. I just startled Naruto. It's hard to understand how such a brilliant lawyer can be so oblivious to his surroundings sometimes. He tends to miss the most obvious things. Gaara says. Damn it. Gaara knew. Sasuke mentally smacks his forehead against a wall. The redhead was aware that something was going on between him and Naruto. The precise level of detail that the other lawyer was aware of was unclear, but he definitely knew something. Yes, I've wondered about that more than once. Naruto, do you want to give me a hand on the Sannin case? I'm never going to get this paperwork done by myself before closing time. Sasuke asks. Yeah, sure. No problem. Naruto says as he walks inside Sasuke's office and shuts the door behind them. Gaara shakes his head in amusement. Finally, there was some progress on the Sasuke and Naruto front. He of course had participated in the pool. His bet was that Sasuke topped. Surprisingly, Itachi was betting that Naruto would. The bets were split right down the middle actually. Well, that's my good deed for the day. He mutters to himself as he heads off. So what are you working on exactly? The blonde asks. The standard paperwork. I haven't gotten into the meat of the case yet. Sasuke replies with a shrug. Naruto raises an eyebrow. He knew his bastard. Sasuke could cut through the standard bullshit like a knife could demolish butter. He didn't need help with that. We both know that is such bullshit. You've never needed help finishing that up before. The blonde says. I know, but it sounded good. The raven-haired lawyer defends himself. Yeah, I guess it did. The blue-eyed man agrees and pauses as he tries to think of what to say. He should say something. Sasuke had wanted some time to think it over. It had only been a day, but Gaara was right. People like Sasuke didn't stay single for long. It was kinda a miracle he wasn't already seeing someone. So how are your cases going? Sasuke asks. Good. I shouldn't have any problem winning my latest one. Pretty much a slam dunk really. They should have assigned it to a rookie. The blonde says brightly. Naruto, you are a rookie. You're barely out of law school. Sasuke notes with amusement. Naruto shakes his head. Nah, he wasn't a rookie and Sasuke damn sure wasn't. They were the best at what they did. It didn't matter how many years they had over their belt. Quality over quantity and all that. Nah, you know that's not true. You definitely wasn't saying that on Monday night either. The environmental lawyer insists. Sasuke felt his face heat up. That was true. There was no getting around that. The boisterous lawyer was definitely not a rookie when it came to his skills in the courtroom or the bedroom. That's a little different than working on court cases. Sasuke says. Maybe a little. There are some similarities though. Naruto insists. The youngest Uchiha debates for a moment. Did he even want to know how Naruto had decided that an arguing court cases were similar? Never mind. It was probably better not to ask. I'm not even going to ask. The raven-haired man replies. Ah, you know you are more fun when you are intoxicated. You are so straight-laced at work. Which is ironic considering that you are about as straight as a circle. Naruto continues. You didn't mind my circular nature on your birthday. Sasuke retorts. Nope. That was true. Naruto definitely hadn't minded it then. Birthday really should become a thing. Best present ever, and that included when his parents got him a car for his 16th birthday. You're right. It didn't. So did you think about it? The blonde asks. Honestly, I haven't really thought of much else since then. Sasuke admits. Naruto wasn't sure if that was a good sign or a bad sign. Should he press Sasuke for an answer or just let the other man spit it out at his own pace? He wasn't sure. Damn it. Did you figure out what your closing statement will be? The environmental lawyer inquires. No, I think I might have figured out what my opening one is though. The youngest Uchiha replies cautiously. The blonde mentally gulps. Well, this was it. Once Sasuke made a decision, it was almost impossible for him to change his mind. So what's your opening statement then? He asks nervously. I'm not going to lie. I'm worried. If this doesn't work out, we might be throwing away our friendship and work would become rather uncomfortable for both of us. But if you were willing to agree to a few ground rules, then I might be willing to give it a shot. He says. Well, that was better than expected. Still, Naruto wasn't exactly sure what Sasuke meant by ground rules. He nods his head encouragingly. All right, what did you have in mind exactly? The blue-eyed lawyer dares himself to ask. We keep this completely separate from work for now. Our relationship is too new to have it subjected to office gossip. I know that Gaara knows. That was somewhat of a given, but don't tell anyone else. Sasuke states firmly. That one kinda sucked. Naruto liked being affectionate with his lovers in public. He was fond of PDA. Sasuke was different in that respect though. Neji was the most serious relationship that he had ever had, and he'd only seen Sasuke kiss him a handful of times in public. I should have figured that one was coming. Can I agree to that one, under the condition that we revisit it later? The other man inquires. That's agreeable. Secondly, it's not going to happen again. Well, at least not for a long time. If we are going to try this for real, we have to do so without the assistance of vodka, whiskey, beer, fruity drinks, or any other forms of alcohol. If we are intimate again, I don't want us to be able to blame it on the fact that we were drunk. The youngest Uchiha says. Yeah, that makes sense. Is that it? Naruto asks and Sasuke nods. Well, that wasn't too unreasonable. He just didn't want to get cozy at the office or do it while they were drunk. He kinda expected a lot more resistance really. Alright, well, I have two conditions too. Naruto says brightly. Sasuke raises an eyebrow. He was almost afraid to ask, but he had to. He gestures for the blonde to continue. I'm listening. What are your conditions? He asks warily. Well, exclusivity. While we are sorting this all out, I don't want anyone else hanging all over you. We'll get restraining orders from your stalkers, if necessary. Naruto begins. Sasuke makes a small snort of amusement. That was definitely Naruto. He had never liked to share his toys. It seemed that trait had carried over into the romantic sphere as well. Fine by me. I'm exclusive with anyone I date, anyway. He replies IWHT a shrug. Great. My other condition is based on the assumption that we have again. If we do, I want to be able to tie you up next time. Nothing too crazy. Just handcuffs or something like that. The blonde assumes him. Sasuke blinks. He hadn't seen that one coming. He probably should have though. Naruto had always been rather creative. So he should have assumed he'd have at least a couple of hidden kinks. Apparently one of those was light bondage. That's putting the cart before the horse. I guess that's alright. You didn't say how long they had to stay on. He says with a smirk. Bastard, that is so not fair. Naruto growls. You should have written your contract more carefully then. It's not my fault that you didn't think your request through. But yeah, I guess we have a deal then. Sasuke says, feeling rather smug at having outwitted his best friend and lover. Naruto grumbles something about sneaky bastards. Sasuke shakes his head and smiles. Maybe this would work out. Naruto was still Naruto. Now their friendship just came with the benefit of really great. It's not my fault that you just lived up to the stereotype of dumb blondes. Sasuke replies with a shrug. Oh, that's it. Definitely using the cuffs. You are going to pay for that one. Naruto says. Sasuke smirks. He had always enjoyed getting under Naruto's skin. The best part about that was how easy it was to do. The blonde reacted to everything intensely. He honestly had no idea where Naruto got all his energy from. What was in that fucking ramen anyway? I'm trembling with excitement. I have to get back to this paperwork. It's a pain in the ass, but it's got to be done. I'm sure you have actual work to do as well. So I'll see you later. Sasuke says as he turns his attention back to his job. You know you don't have to rush. Your family owns the place. The blue-eyed lawyer protests. That's exactly why I can't afford to be seen slacking. I don't want anyone to think that I didn't get this job based on merit. Sasuke mutters. Naruto blinks. He never knew that Sasuke felt that way. His record was fucking legendary. No one seriously thought that he hadn't earned his job. Bastard, I think everyone knows by now that you are a damn fine lawyer. If they don't, then they are just really dumb. But alright, I'll see you later then. He says as he walks off. So what did he say? Gaara says as he walks over to Naruto. Naruto drags Gaara off again. The redhead raises an eyebrow. This was honestly starting to be a pattern. He really should inform the blonde that he was not a rag doll. That bad? The Suna lawyer inquires. No, it's good news. He's willing to give it a shot. He just doesn't want it to be spread around the office just yet. The blonde says. Oh boy, Gaara could see that was going to be a problem later on. Naruto tended to be very possessive of his lovers and he was a big believer in PDA. That was one area where the two lawyers definitely differed. This might be a train wreck in the making. Well, that's good. Don't force the public issue. He probably doesn't want people to think that he's exploiting you or that you are trying to sleep your way to the top. The other man points out. Naruto blinks. He hadn't even looked at it from that angle. Maybe that was why Sasuke wanted them to keep a low profile. That would make sense. I didn't even think of that. He mutters. Well, Sasuke has always been the more practical of you two. So it's not surprising that he would think of things like that. In a way, you two balance each other out well. You are a natural extrovert and optimistic. He's a realistic introvert. You complement each other. Yin and yang really. He muses. Oh, that was good. I'm surprised you are still single with lines like that. Naruto says. Gaara shrugs. He was married to his work more or less. He was really young to be in charge of a law firm and eager to prove himself. He'd find someone eventually. I'm more worried about your love life than mine at the moment. Good luck with the Uchiha. You are going to need it. You know how stubborn he can be. The redhead reminds him. Yeah, I know. Don't worry. I can handle him. Believe it. The blonde says with a bright smile. Gaara shakes his head. One thing was for certain. Things were definitely about to get a whole lot more interesting in the Sharingan law firm. He just hoped the Uchihas had damn good insurance. They were probably going to need it. Mixing Naruto and Sasuke together romantically was bound to be an explosive combination. A few days later, Sasuke raises an eyebrow as he watches Naruto walk down the hallway. The youngest Uchiha was damn sure that the blonde was wearing those rather form-fitting pants on purpose. He might have made a comment during their passionate night together that he really liked Naruto's ass. And Naruto was apparently only all too happy to take advantage of that fact. Sasuke swears rather colorfully under his breath and tries to focus on work. Who knew that Naruto could be this evil? The raven-haired lawyer didn't, and he had known the other man since they were babies. You alright, bastard? I think you might have just started swearing in Japanese there. The environmental lawyer asks cheerfully as he strides over to Sasuke's desk. I'm fine. Sasuke answers through gritted teeth. You sure? I was wondering if maybe you wanted to hang out tonight and watch the game. My big screen TV is great for that sort of thing. The blonde asks. To anyone else, it would have appeared a casual conversation. They were friends. It was normal for friends to watch sporting events for each other. Well, it was normal for most friends to do so. Sasuke hated football. Yeah, your TV is great and everything, but you know how much I despise that sort of thing. They are basically paying them to beat each other up. At least boxing and martial arts is more honest about it. Those have an art form to them. This is just caveman shit with numbers. Sasuke replies. You can be such a snob sometimes. It's fun, Sasuke. Besides, there are a lot of strategies that go into these games. It's not just caveman shit. The blonde protests, defending his favorite sport. The prosecutor was clearly not impressed. He rolls his eyes at his friend's antics. Naruto was Naruto. In a lot of ways, they were like night and day. The two lawyers were just wired completely differently when it came to trivial matters like sports. Whatever. He replies as he sorts through some papers. Naruto grins and leans in to whisper something into Sasuke's ear. The tight pants had worked like a charm. That was step 1. Step 2 was getting his boyfriend to drop his guard. Step 3 was to move in for the kill. I know you don't like football. Which is why you won't have to focus too much on the game. We can make our own entertainment on the couch. He says with a grin. Sasuke shivers. He could feel the warmth of Naruto's breath against his ear. While the blonde's words weren't very seductive by themselves, the images they conjured up were. Sounds good. Sasuke answers and thanked God that he wasn't actually stammering. Great. So just stop by whenever. You have a key. Naruto says happily and walks off. What the hell am I going to do with him? The raven-haired man asks himself as he looks upwards as if to ask, why me? He was lusting after his best friend in a seriously big way. Since they agreed to begin a rather tentative relationship, Naruto had largely been treating him the same. Sasuke supposed the blonde wanted him to have some time to get used to the idea. Now, it looked like Naruto was ready to go. Sasuke just didn't have any idea what he was going to do when he got to Naruto's place. They had known each other forever and they had already slept together, so there wasn't really much of a point in pretending to be a blushing virgin. On the other hand, he didn't want the environmental lawyer to think that their romantic relationship was just their friendship with. Damn it, he mutters to himself. While Sasuke was struggling with his internal debate, Naruto merrily bounds back to his office. That had worked like a charm. Gaara was totally right about the pants. Judging by that grin on your face, I assume that you have a date. The redhead inquires. Yeah, you were right. I think the outfit really helped. I invited him to watch the game with me tonight. He says. Gaara raises an eyebrow. That didn't really seem like much of a date. He could have done that with Sasuke when they were friends. Though, if memory served, the youngest Uchiha didn't even like football. Wouldn't dinner be better? The Suna lawyer asks. Nah, Sasuke hates football. He won't be watching the TV. I figured we could put the couch to good use. I mean, we've already done it. So I'm pretty sure that he'll be willing to at least make out or something. The blonde reasons. The other man chuckles. Well, that was one way to look at it. He just really hoped that Sasuke knew what he was getting into. That's true, I suppose. Well, I wish you luck. By the way there is a betting pool going around about the two of you. Who topped when you two were together? The redhead dares himself to ask. Naruto blinks. A betting pool. Oh geez. Maybe Sasuke had a point about the office gossip thing after all. Out of curiosity, who has the most people betting that they'll be the one to top? The blue-eyed man inquires. Oh, it's split pretty down the middle actually. People are going to win a lot of money off of this one. Most of the office decided to participate. Gaara admits. The young lawyer wasn't really sure how to respond to that. In a way, it was pretty disturbing. Still, it was nice to be the center of attention and kinda flattering in a bizarre way. Good to know. Well, I can't tell you that. Sasuke would kill me. He wants our relationship to stay private for now. He doesn't want to mix our professional and personal lives, remember? Naruto reminds him. Oh, I know. I just wanted to know this one small detail. That's all. The redhead insists and his friend just shakes his head in amusement. Naruto just laughs. He couldn't tell Gaara that Sasuke would kill him. Yeah, it was probably better for both of them if he kept his mouth shut on that topic. You know how he is. Sasuke's a private person. He's not going to want that sort of thing to get out there. Maybe when our relationship is more solid, he won't mind so much. But for now, it's probably safer if I don't tell you. I hope you understand. The lawyer says. I understand completely. Good luck with winning Sasuke over. He's a bit like a cat really. He only wants to be petted when he wants, by who he wants, and in a very specific way. If you don't follow those guidelines, the claws come out. At least that's what Neji told me. The redhead muses. Naruto's eyes darken. That was one name he didn't want to hear right now. The last thing he needed was to compare himself to Sasuke's ex. I really don't want to hear about Neji right now. I know that Sasuke says it was an amiable breakup, but they dated for a year. There's history there. The blonde says and tries to bite back a growl. Don't worry about it. Everyone's got a past, Naruto. Neji is firmly in the past. The reason that they broke up was that Neji's family didn't approve of him being gay and the guy got a job offer across the country. It's not like there's a chance that the Hyuga is going to try to steal him back. The redhead assures him. Naruto sighs and nods. That was true. He couldn't help but remember the day that Sasuke told him that he had called things off with Neji. You alright, bastard? You look like your dog got run over or something. The blonde asked in concern. I'll be fine. I guess it's just a little depressing. I did invest a year of my life with him. I should have known how this was going to end though. Sasuke cryptically stated as he sat down at his desk. Naruto blinked. He had invested a year of his life with someone. That could only mean one thing. Neji. Sasuke and Neji had broken up. What happened? You two seemed pretty tight. His best friend asked him. It's my fault. I should have realized it was going to happen. His family is very traditional. They just don't understand anything about gay people. So we kept it a secret from them. I didn't really mind. I was interested in him, not his family. Well, they found out about it last night. It didn't end well. The raven-haired man explained. Naruto gulped. Shit. That sounded like it had been brutal. He walked over to his friend and placed his hand on Sasuke's shoulder in a comforting fashion. Are you going to be okay? The other lawyer dared himself to inquire. Yeah, I'll be alright. It's just depressing. Anyway, it was quite the scene. Hiyashi stumbled on us making out on the balcony. I'm kinda surprised that he didn't shove both of us over it, really. There was a lot of yelling and some fine china might have gotten thrown and destroyed, the prosecutor said and took a deep breath before he continued on. Oh damn. That sounded horrible. Naruto winced as he tried to imagine himself in Sasuke's shoes. He couldn't do it. I never wanted to come between him and his family. Neji told me that he got a job offer. It's on the other side of the country. I told him to take it. I called things off with him. Really, it was for his own good. I'm not going to lie. It still hurts though, Sasuke confessed. That's still really rough. I'm sorry, Naruto said. Sasuke shook his head. It wasn't Naruto's fault. He never should have gotten involved with someone who hadn't come out to his family yet. It had been a stupid idea from the beginning. It's alright. His family threw a bitch fit of epic proportions, but Neji himself was very reasonable. He doesn't hate me and I don't hate him. We both should have known better really. Sasuke said with a shrug. That's how Naruto knew that his best friend was really hurting. Sasuke was trying to act casual, but he knew the truth. It was going to take a while for the raven-haired lawyer to get over his ex. Yeah, I know. It's stupid to get jealous, but I am. Does that make me a bad person? We weren't together back then. It's not like Neji poached him from me or anything. The blonde asks. It doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a very human person. Anyway, you're right. Now isn't the time to be thinking about Neji. It's the time to be thinking about you and Sasuke. I'm glad the pants helped though. Gaara says with a smirk and Naruto laughs. A few hours later, Sasuke calls Suigetsu. He definitely couldn't call Itachi. It was bad enough that Itachi knew everything. The youngest Uchiha wasn't going to ask him for fashion advice. Suigetsu. Sasuke says into his phone. Oh hey, Sasuke. What's up? Suigetsu asks. It's a really long story, but I need your advice on something. I have a date tonight and I'm not exactly sure what I should do on it. You aren't busy, are you? He asks. Suigetsu raises an eyebrow. Sasuke had a date. That was new. The guy hadn't been out on one in months. This should be good. That's great news. I've been telling you since forever that you need to get laid. So who has captured our fair princess's heart? He asks with a smirk. Suigetsu. Sasuke growls warningly. Oh alright, you're right. That was a little below the belt. Who has captured our fair prince's heart? He corrects himself. Sasuke groans. It was at this point that he was starting to reject his decision to call. Still there really was no turning back now. I'm not giving you a name. You'd harass them, but I guess I can give you the background. So I've known this guy for a long time. We ended up going to a birthday party and we had too much to drink, Sasuke begins. You had a drunken hookup and are trying to see if it has any staying power. That's not like you. Good job though. I mean you must have done something right or else he wouldn't be coming back for more. The white-haired man says cheekily. Well, that was true. If Naruto didn't like being with him, then he wouldn't have asked for a date. That didn't change the fact that he had a very important decision to make. Right. Well, he invited me back to his place to watch the game. So I don't really know what I should wear. We've already slept together, so there's not much of a point in pretending to be shy. But I don't want him to think that I'm just using him for easy. Sasuke continues. Good point. Well, tell me about this guy. If you won't give me a name, at least give me a rundown of his personality. Let me know what I'm working with. The violet-eyed man says. Sasuke pauses. How could one possibly describe Naruto? That and he had to do it in a way that wouldn't give away who he was really talking about. This was going to be difficult. He's very friendly and outgoing. Natural extrovert. He's got a good job though. He's smart, he just doesn't really show it off much. It's more likely than not that he's going to try to convince me to join him for a round 2. He might be a little possessive. Sasuke answers. Well, in that case, I'd probably wear a jersey of his favorite team, if you know it. Throw on some jeans underneath. That, or if you are feeling really adventurous, just the jersey. It'll play well with the possessiveness and you are watching a football game, so it makes sense. The other man says. Sasuke pauses as he considers it. Maybe Suigetsu had a point. He had to know what he was doing right. He was dating Kisame, for God's sakes. Yeah, Sasuke still didn't really know how that worked either. Definitely wearing the jeans. Thanks. Sasuke says. No problem. I gotta go. Looks like Kisame is home. CYA. Be sure to tell me all the juicy details. he says as he hangs up. Sasuke shakes his head in amusement. Well, that was Suigetsu for you. He still wasn't sure how Kisame managed to kiss Suigetsu with those shark teeth of his, but somehow it worked. Guess, I better get going, he mutters as he quickly heads off to change. A short while later, he heads to Naruto's house. He knocks on the door and the blonde opens it. Suigetsu had apparently been right about the jersey thing. Hey, you made it. I thought you said you didn't like football. Naruto says. I don't. But I borrowed Itachi's jersey. I know that you like this team. So I figured that I'd humor you. Sasuke says with a smirk as he heads inside with him. Ah, bastard, that was actually sweet. Plus it does look really good on you. Naruto says as he walks over to the couch and gestures for the raven-haired man to join him. Sasuke sits on the couch next to Naruto. He turns on the TV. For a moment, he was grateful to the TV for providing a distraction. So I guess this is your way of getting even. I teased you with the pants. You wore the jersey. Naruto muses. Maybe a little. Sasuke admits with a smirk. It's definitely working. So about you and those straws at work, that was evil. The blonde murmurs as he brushes his lips against Sasuke's. Sasuke raises an eyebrow at that comment. Straws? What was Naruto even talking about? Never mind. He smiles and returns the kiss. I have no idea what you are talking about, but you can keep kissing me. The other lawyer informs him after breaking the kiss. Oh, maybe that hadn't been intentional. Oh well. Naruto decides it didn't matter. All that mattered the moment was making out with his favorite bastard. Damn, Sasuke was a good kisser. It didn't take long for Naruto to get carried away. He wasn't sure exactly when he pinned Sasuke to the couch, but he was really glad he did. Why didn't we do this sooner? He asks briefly before kissing Sasuke's neck. I'm not sure. I guess we just were always around each other. So it didn't occur to us. Sasuke answers him and flips them. Sasuke had his pride. He didn't mind switching it up occasionally in the bedroom. Still, he wasn't going to allow Naruto to think that he was going to be his good little love slave all the time. Sasuke had managed to ravish his favorite blonde once or twice the other night. He'd be lying though, if he said that most of the time Naruto hadn't taken the reins. And he had fucking loved it, but that was besides the point. Well, I'm definitely not going to complain about the view. Besides, it's kinda hot when you act all tough. Naruto says with laugh. Kinda. Acting. I'm definitely not acting. Sasuke states and gives him a dirty look. Oh, I know you're strong, but I know how to make you mew like a kitten. The blonde informs him. Sasuke felt his face heat slightly at that one. Naruto was right about that. He definitely knew exactly how to make him melt. And you're really fucking adorable when you blush. I mean, it's not like Hinata. Your face doesn't all red. Your cheeks just turn a light shade of pink. It's really cute. Naruto muses. Oh yeah, I'll show you cute. Sasuke growls and his eyes flash ruby red. Naruto was about to retort to that, when he heard someone knocking at his door. The young lawyer frowns and sighs. As fun as that sounds, looks like it'll have to wait a bit. Someone's at the door. Naruto grumbles. Someone with lousy timing. I'll get it, Sasuke says as he hops off of Naruto and goes to answer it. He blinks when he opens the door. There was a familiar head of pink hair behind it. Of course, it was hard to forget someone with pink hair. It was Sakura. Oh hey, Sasuke. I guess that means Naruto is around. She says. Yeah, he is. I don't think he wants to see you though. What are you doing here? Sasuke bites back a snarl. Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto had gone to the same college. 1 year, they had been each other's lab partners. Naruto had a very big crush on the med student. So he had been over the moon when she agreed to be his girlfriend. The relationship had gone great. That was until Sakura found out that Naruto wasn't straight. He was bisexual. She hadn't taken it well. Well, I got a job in town and I felt bad about how things ended with Naruto. I was a dumb kid back then. I reacted badly. I think that I at least owe him an apology. She mumbles. Unlike his relationship with Neji, Naruto and Sakura's relationship had not ended civilly. To put it mildly, it had been vicious. It had taken the blonde months to get over it. Honestly, Sakura was lucky that Sasuke hadn't punched her in the face yet. Sakura, I think you should go. I've never hit a woman before, but for you I might make an exception. He doesn't want anything to do with you. Sasuke hisses at her. I know that I messed up badly, but I really do just want to apologize. She protests. Naruto must have sensed a disturbance in the force. He quickly strides towards the door. It was taking Sasuke way too long to deal with whoever had visited or invite them inside. That was always a bad sign. Sakura, he asks in disbelief. Hey, Naruto, I'm sorry. I should have called, but I felt bad about how we left things. So I wanted to apologize. I just moved here. Tsunade gave me a great position at the hospital. It was too good to pass up. She offers with a shy smile. Sasuke was really tempted to hit her. As far as he was concerned, she shouldn't be allowed within 1,000 miles of Naruto. Actually, he would very much prefer it, if she would get out of the Milky Way galaxy in general. He realized that was unreasonable, but that's how he felt. You really should have called. It's not cool to just ambush a guy like that. I mean, I might have been busy with someone else. Sasuke and I were having a guy's night. The blonde says. Yeah, you're right. I should have called. I just didn't know if you would be willing to see me, if I did. I feel horrible about what happened. I shouldn't have reacted like that. It was just shocking. I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. What I did and what I said wasn't fair. The pink-haired woman says. He wouldn't have wanted to see you for a damn good reason. There are some things that you can't take back. Sasuke snaps at her. Sakura frowns. This would have been a lot easier, without Sasuke there. Honestly, she had always been a little jealous over how close the two of them were. She had pawned it off to a bromance, until she found out that Naruto was bi. Maybe that's what really made her snap, she muses. Naruto, can you call off your attack dog? I just want to talk. She insists. He's not my attack dog and Sasuke can do whatever the fuck he wants. Look, I appreciate what you are trying to do. It takes a big person to admit that they were wrong and to apologize. I just would need some time to think about it. Maybe we could be friends or something, but it's going to take a while for me to really get over it. The blue-eyed lawyer says. Damn right, he wasn't Naruto's attack dog, Sasuke thought to himself. He was Naruto's lover. He was also damn sure that he was far better at that job than Sakura ever had been. He was really at a loss for what Naruto could have found appealing about her in the first place. Sasuke was gay. He just had never been attracted to women. But if he had been, he wouldn't have wanted to have with a woman who reminded him of cotton candy. That's fair. Well, it's great to see that you two are still close. Never thought I'd see Sasuke in a jersey though. Sakura muses. And I never thought that I'd see you again. I guess we were both disappointed. Sasuke seethes at her. I said I was sorry. Sakura says. That's not good enough. Naruto, it's your place. You can choose if you want to kick her out or not. But I'm not putting up with her crocodile tears. I hope she doesn't have any delusion that you two are getting back together though. The prosecutor says. Sakura blinks. Sasuke was vicious. Of course she understood why. He was just trying to protect his friend. Still, that didn't make it any easier to take. I can see why you became a prosecutor. What's next? Are you going to try to burn me at the stake? The young woman demands. The thought had crossed my mind. Sasuke informs her. Well, I'm gonna go. If you want to talk, just call the hospital and Tsunade can give you my home number. It was great seeing you again, Naruto. She says as heads down the driveway. Once she was out of sight, Naruto sighs in relief. Sasuke had been spitting bullets. Sakura had lousy timing. He was just beginning to explore what he had with Sasuke and his ex showed up. He really did have the worst luck. You aren't going to get back with her, are you? Sasuke demands. What? No, of course not. It's good that she finally grew up and understands that it's okay not to be straight, but that was just a college crush. Besides, Who needs a cheerleader when I have a sexy bastard who is very good with his mouth? He asks cheerfully. You really are such a loser. Sasuke laughs and places a kiss on Naruto's cheek. Maybe, but you still laughed anyway. Naruto insists. Sasuke couldn't deny that. Well, at the very least, he could be reasonably sure that Naruto wasn't going to go running back to Sakura. God, did he hate that woman. So is date night over then? He asks. Only if you want it to be. The game's over, but that's okay. I was more interested in getting you out of those jeans and that jersey than in watching it anyway. He admits. Sasuke raises an eyebrow. He never expected that Naruto would be that aggressive sexually. He had always figured that the blonde would be a sappy romantic. Apparently, he was more of a Caesar. He came, he saw, and if you let him, he conquerors. Well, you have been mostly behaving at the office. Maybe I should reward you. Sasuke says with a smirk. I like the sound of that. Naruto says as he heads back into the house with Sasuke to claim his reward. Sasuke did know that he was being at least a little ridiculous. Naruto hadn't even talked to Sakura since the breakup. Still, he couldn't help but feel a little jealous. He decided to fix that. The prosecutor knew on some level that he was being childish, but Sasuke was going to remind Naruto why he didn't need Sakura. He had him. The living room is a little too close to the door. I don't want to get interrupted again. The raven-haired man says as he saunters over to the stairs. Sasuke also believed in being honest with himself. Yeah, he could be a little vain, but he was damn sure that he was better at satisfying his blonde than the doctor had ever been. Naruto blinks. He wasn't really sure what Sasuke had in mind, but damn, that was a nice view. The young lawyer had never seen anyone who could move the way that the Uchiha could. It was all sensual predatory grace. It reminded him of some nature documentaries he had seen. Sasuke definitely moved like a big cat. Why, yeah. Good idea. Naruto stammers as he quickly follows Sasuke. Sasuke smirks. That was an encouraging response. He knew that Naruto was smart enough to realize that his reward was sexual in nature. Otherwise, Sasuke wouldn't have been worried about someone walking in on them. So he was pleased when the gorgeous blonde followed him so eagerly. You might want to lay or sit down for this. Sasuke says as he opens the door to Naruto's bedroom. Wait, are you going to try to tie me up instead or something? Naruto asks. No, I'm not going to tie you up. Bondage is apparently your kink. It's not necessarily mine. I might be agreeable to the handcuffs or something similar at some point, but not today. The raven-haired man states firmly. The other lawyer pouts. Sasuke shakes his head. It was amazing how a grown man could imitate a puppy so well. Those big blue eyes really were quite lethal. Alright, maybe next time then. The blonde says as he gets on the bed and lays on his back. Maybe. Though I think you'll enjoy this just as much, if not more than the handcuffs. Sasuke promises him as he gets on the bed. Well, that certainly perked Naruto's interest. There were very few sights that were sexier than having an Uchiha straddle you. Sounds good to me. Naruto murmurs. Sasuke smirks at the reaction. He moves down and finds Naruto's zipper with his teeth. Slowly, but surely he begins to drag the zipper of his lover's pants down with just his mouth. Oh, Naruto suddenly had a very good idea where this was going. Yeah, this could definitely compete with the handcuffs. I thought as much. Sasuke says as he slides Naruto's pants off and wastes no time in doing the same to his boxers. Warning lime. Sasuke blinks. Naruto was always willing to play, it seemed. Admittedly, their romantic involvement had only just gotten started, but thus far the blonde had never failed to give Sasuke his undivided attention. It doesn't take much to get you going. I've barely touched you. Sasuke notes smugly. Have you looked in a mirror lately? Just looking at you is enough. I mean, after what happened at my birthday, I see you in a completely different way. Holy fuck. Naruto begins to explain and then moans when he felt Sasuke wrap his mouth around the tip of his cock. The raven-haired man would have laughed, if his mouth wasn't otherwise occupied. He slowly lavishes the sensitive flesh with his warm, rough tongue. Judging by the sounds that Naruto was making, he quite agreed with this approach. Naruto groans. Damn. No one was better at this than Sasuke. He could already feel his desire pooling low in his belly. He felt like his body was on fire, in a very, very good way. That feels so good. He pants out and runs his fingers through Sasuke's dark spiky locks. He was still amazed at how soft his hair was. That was Sasuke though. Even his hair had to be perfect. Sasuke seems to enjoy the affectionate gesture. Naruto swore that he heard Sasuke practically purr around his erection. That just caused erotic vibrations and heightened the already wicked sensation. You're so easy to please. Sasuke releases him long enough to taunt before he turns his attention back to his current task. He sucked lightly, kissed, licked, and even nipped. There didn't seem to be a real pattern. Naruto would jump and groan when he felt Sasuke's teeth against him. His lover appeared to appreciate this reaction because soon he was sucking him harder and faster. It didn't take long for Sasuke to begin deep-throating him and Naruto almost screams with pleasure. God, you're gorgeous. You look so fucking hot when you are sucking my cock like that. He growls lustfully. Naruto wasn't lying. Damn. There was something incredibly alluring about the sight of that dark head of hair buried between his thighs. Sasuke's eyes were ruby red as he looked up at him and continued driving him insanity with his talented mouth. Sasuke just smirks and sucks harder. That was all that the blonde needed to be sent over the edge. Luckily, Sasuke realized what was about to happen and released his from his mouth just before Naruto came hard. End of lime. Wow. I like rewards. Naruto pants as he tries to catch his breath. I thought you might. Sasuke replies in a cocky fashion and the other lawyer quickly captures his lips in a hot kiss. Who knew that Sasuke could do that with his mouth? Damn. He had really been missing out. Puberty would have been a lot more fun, if he had known his best friend was that talented. Sasuke smiles and kisses back. Sakura could bite him. Naruto might be a loser, but he was his loser. If I had known that getting you jealous triggered that result, I would have done it sooner. Naruto says happily. I was not jealous. The raven-haired man scoffs. Oh please. You looked like you wanted to tear her eyes out. I mean she kinda deserved it. She was pretty awful when she found out that I was bi, but she came to apologize. Don't you think tearing her head off was a little overdramatic? You were jealous. Naruto says firmly. Sasuke raises an eyebrow. Alright. He was jealous, but there was no way in hell that he was actually going to admit that. He did have his pride after all. You are imagining things. Besides, why would I be jealous of her? I doubt you get a harden just by looking at her. Sasuke says smugly. You know, you are really cute when you get all huffy like that. Naruto says. Sasuke grumbles something about not being huffing. He insists that he wasn't jealous. Though deep down, he knew that his protests were futile. They both knew that he had been insanely jealous. It's kinda late. I should probably go. Sasuke says after a while. You could stay. You've stayed over before. Naruto protests. That was different. That was before we were, whatever we are. I'll see you at work. Sasuke says as he gets off the bed and heads towards the door. Naruto sighs. Damn it. Leave it to Sasuke to wind him up and then just stop. He couldn't believe that his best friend was such an evil fucking tease. Yeah, alright. Work isn't as fun as here. Are you still insisting on that stupid no PDA thing in the office? Because you know your desk looks like it's pretty sturdy, the blonde asks. It's not stupid and yes, I am. As far as my desk goes, I don't think it could handle you. You're like a wild animal sometimes. Sasuke says with a shrug as he slips off. The next day, Sasuke was at work. He was mentally kicking himself a bit for giving into jealousy like that. He probably shouldn't have done that. Doesn't matter. He clearly loved it. The youngest Uchiha mutters to himself. Who clearly loved what? Itachi asks as he walks into Sasuke's office. It's a long story. Sasuke says and hoped to God that he was not blushing. If he was blushing, Itachi would be on him like a dog on a bone. His brother could be rather persistent. Maybe Sasuke should try to get him a boyfriend. It might make life easier for him. Itachi had plenty of offers. As far as the younger Uchiha could tell, the older man was just picky. Really? Who could possibly live up to Itachi's standards? It's about Naruto, isn't it? He whispers. How did you know that? That's it. It's time for you to admit that you are some kind of mind reader. Sasuke snaps at him. Itachi chuckles. He wasn't a mind reader. He just knew his foolish little brother. Considering that he and Naruto had just started dating, whatever was on his mind was most likely connected to everyone's favorite bubbly blonde. You asked me for advice about him. Now you are talking about someone loving it. It doesn't take much of a genius to fill in the blanks. The smoky-eyed Uchiha informs him. Sasuke sighs. Well, Itachi had a point there. He frowns as he considers whether or not he should ask his brother for more advice. He didn't exactly want to go into graphic detail about why he really was Itachi's foolish little brother. You suck sometimes. I can't keep anything from you. Sasuke growls. I'm your older brother. You are damn right that you can't keep anything from me. What did you do? Did you sleep with him again? Itachi asks. Sasuke sighs. No, he hadn't gone that far. Still, he probably shouldn't have gone as far as he did. This was about to get rather embarrassing to say the least. No, I'm not that stupid. Give me some credit. I might have done something else though. He admits. Alright, you didn't sleep with him, but you are embarrassed about what you did. So I'm guessing you did something that was sexual in nature. Either way, that's not that bad. You are already lovers. Though if you are going to be that affectionate towards him, he's probably going to assume that you are an official couple. Are you ready for that? His brother demands. Sasuke pauses as he considers the answer to that question. The physical chemistry was unbelievable. They had known each other for years. It wasn't like there was likely going to be much that he was going to find out about Naruto after they became lovers, that he didn't already know. Still, it was a pretty big risk to take. I don't know. I guess I should have thought of that before I slept with him though. He says with a sigh. Yes, ideally you would have asked yourself that question before engaging in intimacy with him. Though there is no point dwelling on it. That's weird. His brother says after a moment and glances down the hallway. Sasuke raises an eyebrow. For something to elicit that reaction from Itachi, it had to be truly bizarre. Not much fazed the elder Uchiha these days. The prosecutor blinks when he saw what caught the other man's attention. A mailroom clerk was heading towards them. He was carrying a large gift basket filled with tomatoes. Sasuke, this is for you. The mailroom clerk says. His name was Konohamaru. He was a nice kid. The guy was working his way through law school. The college student also adored Naruto. He practically worshipped him, which by extension meant he was also fond of Sasuke because the youngest Uchiha was the blonde's best friend. Really? Thanks. Sasuke says as he checks the card. Yeah, who is it from and why would they be sending you tomatoes? That's odd, Konohamaru states. Sasuke couldn't help but agree. That was unusual to put it mildly. Then again, tomatoes were his favorite food. Maybe they were from Naruto. It would be a sweet gesture, but he'd have to smack him for it. Sasuke had said over and over again that he didn't want their work lives and personal lives to overlap until they figured out what was going on between them. Dear Sasuke, I know it's been a while, but I'm back in town. It's completely understandable if you have no wish to see me, but I would like to see you. I don't like how we left things. I am really sorry about how my family reacted to us. Things got worse after our breakup. I was forced to disown myself, if I wanted to preserve my sanity. Anyway, I got a job in the next city over. If you were interested, I would like to meet up for lunch or whatever you are comfortable with. Love, Neji. P.S. I figured that you weren't the type to like flowers. So I sent tomatoes instead. I remember how much you used to like them. Itachi couldn't resist snooping. He blinks when he read the note. Oh, this might not end well. I am really glad that I'm not you right now. He murmurs. Thanks, Itachi. That's really helpful. Really, I'm just overwhelmed by your support and helpful advice. Should I tell Naruto about the basket and Neji wanting to meet up? He asks. The elder Uchiha pauses. On one hand, it'd be good for Sasuke to be honest with Naruto. They were potentially starting a romantic relationship and secrets were not exactly the strongest foundation to build on. On the other, he somewhat feared for Neji's safety, if Naruto found out. That is a very tough call. Do you think Naruto would get violent if he saw Neji or knew that the Hyuga wanted to meet with you? Itachi inquires tactfully. Honestly, I'm not really sure. Naruto's not the type to seriously fly off the handle and hurt someone. He'll probably yell a lot and maybe through some things though. Sasuke admits. And what do you think Naruto would do, if he found out that you didn't tell him about Neji? His brother asks. Sasuke sighs. Naruto would feel betrayed. An image of hurt blue eyes flashes through his mind. He'd be crushed. We've always been honest with each other. Sasuke murmurs. Then you should continue that. Besides, just because he sent you a basket, doesn't mean you are going to meet with him. Even if you do, you aren't required to take him back. Itachi replies. Sasuke sighs. His brother was right about that. A firm choice was going to have to be made and there would be no going back, once he made it. Well, unless you want to. You are going to have make a choice. Neji or Naruto. You can't have both. Though I am beginning to notice a pattern. Do you have some sort of name fetish? Itachi finishes in amusement. Sasuke twitches. He didn't think now was the time to make jokes. The youngest Uchiha was rather tempted to whack the smoky-eyed lawyer upside the head for that helpful comment. You're right. I should be honest with him. If Neji's family hadn't flipped out, I'd probably still be with him. In that case, I never would have slept with Naruto. I don't cheat. I can't lie, I did like Neji a lot. It wasn't love though. It might have developed into it, if things had been different. The younger man replies with a heavy sigh. And Naruto? Itachi prods gently. Naruto. Sasuke didn't even know how to articulate what he felt for the blonde. If you had asked a week ago, his answer would have been simple. Naruto was his best friend. He was like a second brother to him. The raven-haired lawyer knew that he could always count on him, no matter what. Now things were different. Naruto also happened to be a fantastic lover. Sasuke had always enjoyed just never that much. Did that mean that he was in love with his best friend though? He wasn't sure. I don't know. We've been friends for so long, that it's hard to envision us as anything else. But it's electric when we are together. Sasuke replies. It sounds like you have some regrets about the way things worked out with Neji, but you're definitely interested in Naruto. That is a tough one. The other Uchiha offers sympathetically. Don't get me wrong. I started this thing with Naruto. I'm not going to just leave the first time another guy bats their eyes at me or sends me a basket of tomatoes. Sasuke begins. Itachi raises an eyebrow. Well, that was good. He knew his brother. Sasuke might be foolish, but he wasn't the type to stray. He'd always been faithful to whatever lover he happened to have at the time. I hear some hesitation in your voice. Maybe you need some closure. The elder Uchiha suggests. Yeah, maybe I do. Like I said, I really liked him. We were good together. He's proven where I fit in his life though. He chose his family once over me. Neji might claim he disowned himself, but how do I know he wouldn't do that again? The raven-haired man asks. That is a very good point. Sasuke, I would advise you to be honest with Naruto. If I were in your shoes, I would probably met Neji somewhere. Meet him for coffee or something that is public. You don't want old feelings to be stirred up again and to do something that you'll regret later. That way you are honest and you get your closure. The personal injury lawyer reasons. Sasuke nods. Yeah, that would probably be the best way to go. He mentally winces as he pictures Naruto's reaction to this. You're right. I do at least owe it to Naruto, to be honest with him. We've never kept secrets from each other before. We really shouldn't start now that we exploring the possibility that we might be more. The prosecutor says. Itachi nods approvingly. Well, that seemed settled. He just hoped that Naruto didn't freak out too much. Sasuke was trying to do the right thing. He just wasn't exactly sure what that was at the moment. Alright. Well, there's your blonde. He's coming down the hall. You might want to go talk to him. Itachi suggests and Sasuke nods as he heads off towards Naruto. Naruto, this is going to be awkward. Can we talk in your office? Sasuke asks. The young lawyer blinks. Well, at least it wasn't we need to talk. That would have definitely been a breakup. Awkward didn't sound good though. Yeah, sure, he says as he opens the door and his lover darts through it. Quickly, Naruto follows him. The blonde shuts the door and locks it. Now they would have complete privacy. Well, at least they would have complete privacy in theory anyway. So what's up? You look kinda spooked. That's not like you. Naruto observes. Someone sent me a gift basket. You aren't going to like it, but I want to be honest with you. He says anxiously. Naruto raises an eyebrow. Why would he be upset about someone sending Sasuke a gift basket? That didn't make any sense. So, I mean, it was probably just some client that thought you were hot or something. That's not a big deal. The blonde replies. It wasn't just some client. It was Neji. He wants to meet up and talk. He left a note. Neji claims he disowned himself from his family and he wants to give us another shot. The prosecutor begins anxiously. Naruto definitely did not like the sound of that. What the fuck? Sasuke was just with him last night and now Neji was trying to steal his bastard away from him. Well, I hope you tell him to fuck off. Tell him that you are with someone else. I get why he left you, but he chose his family over you. Neji didn't fight for you then. Why would he do it now? The other lawyer demands, almost yelling at his lover. I don't want to be with him anymore. I just thought that you should know. I think that I do kinda owe it to Neji to at least talk to him though. It's just closure. That's all. The youngest Uchiha says as he suddenly seems to find his feet fascinating. Naruto sighs. Damn it. What was he supposed to say to that? Suddenly, he understood a whole lot better why Sasuke had been such a dick to Sakura. Jealousy sucked big time. I don't like it. I guess it's only fair though. You did let me talk to my ex. I mean, I didn't call her or anything. Sakura just showed up, but you didn't punch her or anything. Naruto reasons. That's right. It was tempting though. You have no idea how badly I wanted to punch her. Sasuke confesses. It's just coffee, right? I mean, you did give the guy a year of your life. It's only fair that you tell him to go fuck himself in person. The blue-eyed lawyer says. Sasuke nods. It would just be coffee. Maybe 5 minutes was all he really needed to move on. Naruto wasn't Neji. Neji had left him high and dry once. The blonde never had. Yes, Naruto. It's just coffee. Sasuke tries his best to assure him. Alright. Well, after letting you have coffee with your ex, I think you should reward me. I definitely deserve a reward for not going into a jealous rage. Naruto says with a vigorous nod of his head. Sasuke snorts in amusement. Naruto wanted to be sucked off again because he was a good boy and didn't destroy public property. That or Neji's face. Only Naruto. I think that's fair. The raven-haired man agrees.